Welcome to the 210 Fearless Sports Show with Coach Sadiq. Today's topic is privilege, the root of sports evil. I'm going to start with a pro analogy, and I'm going to juxtapose or splice that with a youth sports analogy because this is indeed a youth sports talk show. Okay, I'll begin by saying that in a recent ESPN broadcast, Ben Simmons uh, it was said that Ben Simmons was played in his last game before his quote unquote injury as a second center. Okay, it's a second big, and they literally said, "quote That was if they're going to play him that way, they look better, probably more successful if they play him as a second big and not as the starter. Just as Westbrook comes off the bench, his 3 point percentage goes up, his turnovers go down, his scoring goes up, right? So they said to play Ben Simmons this way, quote unquote, is a waste of money. Okay, they said it was a waste of money. Now, if this is a waste of money and this is the best way to play him and it's best for the team, then Houston, we have a problem, right? Okay, so the winning formula uh, is to bring him as the second big off the bench. But uh, salary wise, they said it doesn't make sense. Okay, so you got the winning formula which the coach may know better than you or I even. But the sports broadcasters are saying by money or by salary, it doesn't make sense. Okay, so agents also, sports agents will, and this is in the pros, of course, they will negotiate not only pay, but play time. This is also often in the contract. And when you put that in the contract, how much time they will play, then that's not team first. Of course, these are millionaires, multimillionaires, these are professionals. But at the end of the day, as far as the fans are concerned, and as far as the coach is concerned, they want to win. But it's hard for the coach to win when the contract numbers don't make sense by the best sequence in which you play them. Some are better six men than they are starters, okay? And some are better starters than they are coming off the bench, but that's the coach's decision. And because coaches aren't always allowed to make that decision because the front office, the GM, the owner, so on and so forth, sometimes they make that contract. That contract dictates how much playing time this person gets, okay? Or they'll become disgruntled, or they'll suffer an injury, quote unquote, an injury that may not actually be an injury true, okay? So coaches would develop what I call coaching atrophy. They'll start to lose some of their coaching muscle. They start to lose their influence. That's another thing, subject that could be brought up about players making more than coaches. You'll say, well, that's the talent. Well, you can have all the talent in the world, and I've seen this in youth sports and in pros. You can have all the talent in the world if the coaching does not jibe you all together. The coaching does not synchronize you all together. Then what you will witness is that the team, no matter how talented, top to bottom, won't win. And a lot of this, a lot of people don't know, it's in the negotiation. The pay is negotiated, and also the play time is negotiated, and that's not fair to coaches. Okay, so the contract affects the playing time, and also other players may affect the playing time. If we go with Kwame Brown, drafted straight out of high school, okay, Kwame Brown was touted to be uh, a straight, 5-star, all-star, and would do so well in the pros. And plus, he had the size. He's a big. You can't teach big. You can teach a big to play, but you can't teach big. So anyway, in this one instance, Kwame Brown said Gilbert Arenas put his mouth on him, basically, and affected his play time. okay? Because Gilbert Arenas was the bigger star at that particular time. So this is also true with Kwame Brown and Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan didn't like young players, or he didn't particularly like Kwame Brown, so he made it very hard on Kwame Brown. When he first got into the league, or when he came across Jordan, and so on and so forth. So, with that being said, the players themselves affected playtime. So you might say, well, how does this relate to youth sports? So I have some analogies based on that, and removing the money element because nobody's actually being paid. Although there were instances of gas cards being given to the parents to make it easier for them to travel, to the practice, to the game, so on and so forth, because they could not ordinarily afford it. Certain players that are exceptional or scholarshiped in youth ball, and I have nothing against either of those scenarios. I have nothing against those scenarios. Okay, uh, parents do actually need help. That's something that I try to work into the scenario. I'd rather have a scenario which one day that the coaches are compensated gas money, the team managers, team moms are compensated gas money, so on and so forth. Players are chiefly scholarship. You know, uh, if I had some money come through, which possibly in the future, I might scholarship the whole team. You know, just to give some relief to the parents. And a lot of parents I know I've dealt with, a lot of them be like, "Nah, I got it. You good? You good?" I had parents offer to pay for the whole banquet, even. Paying for the whole banquet. To show their appreciation. Of course, I declined and I covered it, but nevertheless, the point that I'm making is that parents are very benevolent. They're very uh, philanthropic if you allow them to be, and they may not want to scholarship their child. But there was one instance with the team on I won't say what team, but on the south side that had this one little kid. This kid was so, you can tell he wasn't trained. He was coached, but he wasn't trained, and he was so naturally dynamic that um, when it came time, you going into the season, the team was like, "Hey, parents, you got to pay. You haven't paid your dues. And the parent told the team, "My kid is so good, I shouldn't have to pay." So I hope that kid prospers. He was a bit undersized, very shifty, very naturally, kind of like I was growing up. I ran with a proper fear. I don't think this kid had fear, but I ran with a proper fear that I didn't like to get tackled, and therefore my juke game, sufficed. My juke game complemented my fear of being tackled. Okay, by bigger kids. So anyway, what happened was they said my kid is so good he shouldn't have to pay. So with that being said, I hope they don't raise him with that mentality because that doesn't fare well in the real world. Okay, outside of youth sports. Okay, but nevertheless, if you remove the money element, um, you have other factors that affect winning. Just as a person's pay scale, like Ben Simmons, he's just not mentally there. I think they should just, call it quits with him. Not saying that I have an issue with people with mental health and so on and so forth, and they shouldn't get help. Let him get all the help he needs, but he can't get help he needs on the court. That's the problem. See, on the court is where Brooklyn Nets are designed and constructed to win. Okay, and they can't win when one of your most dominant defensive players is on the bench due to a non-physical injury. See, we tend not to be so understanding. We take the Dallas Cowboys as an example. They said Pollard ran so good. They said, "Man, we don't need Zeke." And then when they lost against Green Bay, they said, "Man, we lost because we didn't have Zeke." People were saying, "Well, Cooper Rush was doing so well that we don't need Dak." And then when he struggled, they said we need Dak. And now Dak struggled, they said we need Cooper back. So on and on. That's just fans, right? So fans expect you to win. If you construct it in a certain way, the They expect you to win. Parents are looking at their kids doing preseason training and heat acclimation and things like that, right? So they're looking at that and they're saying, wow, my kid really should shine. They really should win. And I want to talk about this one day. The parents are blinded. The parents can't see the forest because of the through the trees, and that's not a fault of their own. That's not a fault of their own. I expect coaches to see the forest, but sometimes parents can't see it, and that does a disservice to our youth a lot of times. But that's another topic. So removing the money element again, let's go into youth sports and see how privilege becomes the root of sports evil. Okay, now we have privilege. We have daddy ball. Okay, this subject is not about daddy ball. Daddy ball is an element of this subject. So daddy ball is when you have you know a not if not the head coach, a coach on offense or defense, depending on what their kid plays. And a lot of times in youth ball, you flip both sides. You play offense and defense. So what happens is that you got daddy ball. So um, dad expects his son to be QB1. Dad expects his son to be defensive end, but he doesn't have the speed or the aggressiveness to be defensive end. Now, defensive end is one of my most favorite positions. My favorite position is center. Not that I was a center or ever played center. Nothing happens if the center doesn't get it off. If the center doesn't get off, nothing happens. Last play of the game, uh, you need that yard so you can just walk the clock out to make your first down. So you can walk the clock out, or just run the clock out. What happens is the ball shoots way over the quarterback's head. The defense advances, grabs the ball, takes it down the field. You lose. Okay, so the center getting the snap off. I lost a playoff game, and I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. That snap, So the center is my favorite position because it starts with the center. Not that, not saying he's the most, or he or she is the most essential. I'm not saying that in youth ball, but I'm saying that the center has to be solid. And if my center is solid, I can work with everything else behind. I went 4-4 with no quarterback. Literally no quarterback. I went 4-4. But nevertheless, that was my worst season. 12 players, Iron Man. I'll talk about that before I get out of here. Why it's relevant for what I'm talking about. Privilege is the root of sports evil. Okay, so removing the money element again. Daddy ball. Daddy expects his sons to get so many snaps. Daddy does not expect, even if he's just an assistant coach, right? He doesn't expect, and I'm not saying just an assistant coach. Those are very critical. They can cost you a game. They can help you win a game. Okay, and I got stories about that. Okay, but what happens is that uh, daddy's athlete or daughter in youth ball, right, is expected so many snaps, if not starting position, because they volunteered their time with their kid. But your child might not be best for team chemistry to start. Your child may not be a defensive end. I'm out coaching these eighth graders, and I won't say what team. I posted what team, but I won't say what team. I don't have permission to say. So I'm coaching the defense, these eighth grade elite travel team, right? And what happens is ask the kids, because I just met them. They just finished school ball, right? Middle school ball. So I said, what position do you play? Did you play for your school? What position do you like to play? Okay, 2 questions, right? Often different, sometimes the same. Okay, so kid told me defensive end, and I said defensive end. I watched him move. I watched him work. Okay, I think he was doing defensive tackle, and we just plugged him in because we're working on offense. We were not even doing defense at that time. We did defense later on. So I plugged him in, or he was plugged in at defensive tackle, and I said necessarily I plugged him in, and I watched him move, and I watch him, and I watch the stretches. I'm big on stretches, the warm up. Man, if you lazy in your stretches and warm up, I think you're gonna take that mentality to the game, and I don't think I've been proven wrong yet. Okay, so what happened is that this kid was at defensive tackle, And when I asked him, what position do you play? Because when we got ready to line the defense up, right, to work on the defense, we had about 25 kids that day. So I got ready to line up my defense. I said, what position do you play? He said, defensive end. And I hope my face didn't show too much. I show my poker face. I was like, okay, okay. I'm like, ooh. Because see, think about it. Defensive ends, if you got good, swift, aggressive defensive ends, you can go cover zero. You can go cover zero. Okay, you can have your corners go man, and roll that quarterback out to where he has to throw across his body. You could get to that quarterback so fast you don't have time to set up the play, the pass play, or what have you. Defensive ends are really essential to a solid defense, okay? And a defense that takes a quarterback out of his comfort zone and his comforting element, okay? Rushing him, making him make quick, fast decisions when that's not part of their scheme, okay? And rolling out that way was not part of the scheme. He's supposed to be in the pocket, but he had to roll, right? That's where percentage of interceptions go up. So anyway, he said it was defensive end, and I'm like, wow, what coach put him at defensive end? And that's middle school ball, right? A lot of times these are just teachers, I coached middle school before too. So I'm saying that a lot of times these are just teachers. They don't really know the game, okay? And I might not be able to talk football with the best of them. I know how to coach children, though. I know how to coach children. I know how to have children win. I know, I know how to design a whole system around the personnel I saw from the first 2 weeks of heat acclimation. I can design personnel around the first week we have contact. I can design plays around my personnel. I don't have to come in with a playbook already set and trying to plug individuals into a scheme that they really don't fit, because that's my Madden dream. That's the one we use and when I was playing high school ball, that type of thing. So anyway, when he said defensive end, I was like, wow, I'm like, no offense to that kid, maybe he's a better defensive tackle, but defensive end, defensive tackle, I need him to plug that gap. If you can't even penetrate it, plug that gap so that they can't dive on to sweep them out and let my monsters eat them. So anyway, nevertheless, with that being said, daddy ball, you expect your child to play a certain amount of snaps. You expect your child to start, okay? And that's not always going to happen. See, that's not going to happen because that may not be best for the team. Now, I probably said this before. I had a parent. I didn't have a quarterback for this particular age level, not a true quarterback. Now, if I don't have a true quarterback, I might plug my son in at quarterback, but he's a better running back. He's a better running back. Okay, on offense. Okay, defense he has other skills, but at this time, right? So he's better running back than quarterback. Okay, so I might plug him in because he knows the system. I don't have a quarterback anyway, so I might as well have somebody that'll make less mistakes, right? And execute the system. But nevertheless, I put in a kid at quarterback that didn't want to get hit. So I said, okay, well, I'll plug you in. Okay, this is one team. I did a lot of years without a quarterback, because my sons were not quarterbacks, but they did what they could, to help win. So anyway, the dad, the owner told me, hey, I got a quarterback coming. I said, yes, okay, we got a quarterback coming. So the kid shows up, his dad walks up, shakes my hand and said, hey, I'm such and such dad. He said, my son's a quarterback. I said, okay, you're the one that, they were telling me about. I said, we'll see. He said, huh? I said, you say your son's a quarterback. See, I said, we'll see. I'm going to take him through and the dad told his son, go get in the car. And he walked off. I think he went and told the owner something, and he walked off. The owner like, what happened? I said, he said his son was a quarterback. I said, we'll see. Whoever I got at quarterback now, he has to beat that guy out, which shouldn't be hard because he's a quarterback, But the dad wanted no competition. Now, I don't know if that dad was expecting to coach even, because if he expected to coach, that would be even more problematic if his son was not a quarterback. Okay, if his son was not a quarterback, I have no idea what his son can do. I've never seen his son play. I have no tape on his son. I never went to a game where I saw his son play. This kid was brand new to me. He looked the part. He looks good, but I said, we'll see. And that somehow offended the dad. Now, when I went over to the Predators that one year, Coach Sean said, I took my son Wakil when he was that young. Coach Sean said, before me and a couple of coaches started the San Antonio Fearless, right? I went to Predators to take that, to take that year because I didn't want to sit stagnant and have my son wanted to play. So I went over to the Predators, and Coach Sean, my son walked up. He looked at my son. He said, "What position do you play?" My son said, "I'm a running back. I'm a running back." And Coach Sean looked at the running backs and say, "Is he gonna take y'all position?" They said, "No, he ain't taking my spot. He ain't taking my spot." So that attitude was really good. I like that. I didn't tell my son, "Go get in the car. Go get in the car." And drive away mad because my son walks up and has no position. He earned the position, but he had no position. And him and TJ in the backfield. TJ Collins. Well, I don't know if TJ's last name is actually Collins. I shouldn't say that. But him and TJ in the backfield, they were beasts. They were twin beasts. So again, with that being said, Daddy Ball will affect. It will become one of the roots of sports evil. Daddy Ball, the privilege. You expect your kid to start. You expect your kid to be in certain positions that they may not deserve. Coaches have walked off, of teams because their son didn't get the position that they desired. Me being like, I know my kids and myself better than anybody. So, and I like when other people coach my kids, not necessarily me. Okay. So when they ask me, "What do you want to coach this year? What level?" I say, "Well, wherever you need me, wherever I'm needed. That's what I'll do. Wherever I'm needed." So what happened was my son was making 4 and 5 touchdowns a game, and I'm not exaggerating. And the coach knew my son was very sufficient at running the ball, but he wanted to get his son the limelight, and it cost us a championship game. Actually, my son was moving the ball down the field, but they said they were going to give out an MVP award to the most outstanding player of the winning team. We end up losing, and the reason we end up losing because he ran his son. Now, one thing about his son and my son, his son was very elusive. My son was more of a power runner, like if you compare it like youth ball, you would say, the Tennessee Titans, running back, big one. You would say more like that. Okay, so and with that being said, he was not as shifty and elusive. It took him 2 steps, and when he took 2 steps, he'll take 100, right? And this other one, he was really quick, Barry Sanders type runner, but the only thing about it, he wasn't durable. And if you tackle him real good, he'll sit out a snap or two. Also, he may not play again in the game if you tackle him too hard. My son was really durable. He was really durable. So again, with that being said, Daddy wanted his son to get the MVP, ended up costing us the whole game. And any coach that watched that game would say, "Yeah, that's what happened. That's exactly what happened." I got video on it. I still got video today on that game. But nevertheless, what happened is that Daddy Ball can ruin the day because Daddy Ball is a privilege that kids, sometimes undeserving, benefit from Daddy Ball, but the team itself as a concept doesn't benefit from Daddy Ball. I'm not talking about those coaches whose son, like in my situation at that time, who my son knew the system. I didn't have a true quarterback. He's a decent quarterback. Okay, so I plugged him in. Ironically, when he got to middle school, he's a quarterback. Ain't that crazy? Middle school, he's the quarterback. I'm like, "You a quarterback?" I said, "Yeah." I'm like, "Man, you ain't my quarterback." I tell him that. We laugh. I say, "You ain't my quarterback." So anyway, so with that being said, next item that is a point of privilege, that is the root of all sports evil. I'll say all, right? Root of sports evil. I'll take out the all. Okay, is buddy ball. Now, y'all talk about daddy ball a lot. Let's talk about buddy ball. How buddy ball ruins a team. Okay? How buddy ball ruins a team because your buddy gets a coaching position undeservedly, undeservedly. Okay? He doesn't deserve that position, but that's your buddy. Okay? So you put your buddy in, and your buddy is causing havoc with the kids, the parents, and other coaches. Perhaps not always, but they got it because uh, that's the owner, or the head coach's buddy. So he assigned his buddy as the coordinator, or if he's the owner, he assigned his buddy as the head coach, even, and that will cost a game. Okay, buddy ball. We can get into that in detail another day, but buddy ball also lends itself to, I call it, alcohol ball. You say, what is youth sports? We talking about alcohol. Well, uh, I may be seen as antisocial because I don't drink. I don't drink or smoke. Right? Never have, never will. So a lot of times these coaches meetings happen over what they call a pint. Right? If you watch Shrek, over a pint. A flagon of mead. It happens over beer or alcohol. Right? Other alcohol. So uh, I'm not there. I'm not at those meetings. Those are sometimes ad hoc meetings. Hey man, we're gonna gather. We're gonna have a this and that. We're gonna have some drinks and da da da. I said, well, I'm gonna be home with the family, man. Family to me is really precious, right? So all the time with my children, that's my joy. People ask me, what do you do for fun? I say, man, I play with my kids. I play with my babies. I had another one September 3rd. September 3rd was my latest little baby girl, right? Alima. So I play with my children. That's a joy that I have. I'm 52 years old. I don't know, next time I'll be out of here, any day now, right? So I play with my children. That's my joy. So a lot of times they have those ad hoc beer meetings. I'm not there. So I'm seen as the odd man out, antisocial. They already decided to move away from my 44 to go to a 26, or 62. I don't know, whatever they're doing. So they decided to move away from my 44. They going six down, two up. And I'm like, when did y'all decide that? When did y'all decide that? And again, they decided that over a pint. I don't think any intelligent decision should be decided over alcohol. That's my perspective. You may have a different one, but again, buddy ball lends itself to alcohol ball. I've experienced that. I'm not guessing right now. This is no guesswork. I've been in the game a long time. Okay, I've been in the game a long time. Uh, as a young individual, 18, 19, I was coaching kids, in the field in East Terrace down the hill. You know what I'm saying? So I've been doing this for a minute. Okay, so nevertheless, also with buddy ball, what do you have? You have the I can bring more kids individuals, right? You got a coach that he has no tenure, he has no resume. And I'm not. This is just youth ball. It's all volunteer. I might be talking way out, way out of my element, but okay. Nevertheless, you got a coach that promises to bring more kids. He say, "Look, I can bring more kids." And the owner's ears go up like a Doberman pincher. Remember back in the day, they take the Doberman pincher ears and they used to make them stick up like this. They cut them where they stick up. So I seen Dobermans with almost a cast on their ear. So when it heals, they stick straight up. Anyway, what happened is he said, I can bring more kids. So that I can bring more kids coach becomes the offensive coordinator, becomes the defensive coordinator, becomes the head coach because he can bring more kids. What was laughable happened just this past season. He didn't bring no kids. He didn't bring no kids. I think he brought one kid. He didn't bring no kids. So that cost. That I can bring more kids thing. When an organization doesn't have a culture that I can bring more kids philosophy, or that I can bring more kids incentive, it sparks. I mean, the owner be like, wow, like for me, I'm like, I can bring more kids. I say, well, we have a culture here, we have a system here. If you bring those kids will be part of a winning system. Those kids will be part of a winning system. But right now, such and such is our offensive coordinator, such and such is our defensive coordinator. I just met you. Get you some tenure, and then and actually, what happened? There are organizations. I have been part of organizations that don't just let you become a coordinator. They want you to be with that organization 1 2 years. That's part of their bylaws. This coach has to be with us at least 1 year. After 1 year, we can decide if we need him or her to be a coordinator or a head coach. And after 2 years, then they can throw their hat in the ring, and they could lobby to be. They can campaign to be a coordinator or a head coach. So they want you in that organization. They want you to have some tenure, right? And this is fine. I like that because that's culture. When I look at organizations like the Outlaws, I see culture. Agree or disagree? I see culture. I see a culture there. Win, lose, or draw. I see a culture there. And things like that. People that are clamoring. I don't know about now. I haven't been too abreast of the situation now, but people clamoring, coming from out of town to play uh, with the Outlaws and so on and so forth. So again, that's just one example of a team. Columbia has a culture. They have a culture, over in Natchez. They got a culture there. So, and I'm not saying they're going to win everything and win all the time. I'm saying that a culture means that when you step into that organization, you're not going to be making no drastic changes over there. They have a winning culture, and they're not interested in that. And I'm not speaking for anybody. I'm just throwing out my opinion. I'm outside the house looking in the window. Okay, I'm outside the house looking inside the window. My brother-in-law played for Outlaws. My sons were not by the organization, but by parents. Like, hey, bring your sons here. Bring your sons here. This that, and I just never did. But I took my brother-in-law to practice. Picked him up from practice. You know what I'm saying? Waited for him, picked him up, took him home. So anyway, with that being said, culture is really important, and that doesn't allow those promises. I'll bring more kids to disrupt things, because bringing more kids is like telling an owner, I'll bring you more money. But some owners really are into sports. They're into youth sports, and they're trying to win as an organization, because nothing brings kids into your organization like winning. Okay, like winning. You put up that trophy. When you go to Chuck E. Cheese or Peter Piper's and set up your table for recruitment, you put that trophy next to the helmet and the jersey. Put the jersey on a bob. That boxing dummy. I got one called Slam Man. It's freakish. Startled me a few times walking the house. I forgot I had it. But nevertheless, so you put a jersey on the bob of the Slam Man. You put the helmet on it, and you put the trophy right there. This is what we won last year. Okay, so that brings in, this is a winning team. Okay, so those coaches must know what they're doing. Okay, but so nevertheless, culture is really important. So I can bring more kids ball. I put that with daddy ball, buddy ball / alcohol ball, and then you got I can bring more kids ball. Sometimes the owner dollar sign goes up in his head, ching 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 ching. Dollar signs go up or her head, and sometimes I can bring more kids. Okay, well, we need more kids. Hey, coach, such and such. Hey, man, this coach can bring more kids. We need more kids. So could you give him the lead on defense? I'll be like, hey, can he coach defense? I mean, you ever see? No. Did he tell you what defense he runs? Because see, I sat down with a team. It's another coach. It's culture, right? This team, when somebody told me, hey, matter of fact, it was a coach I coached with when I had, when we had the Fearless, San Antonio Fearless, right? I'm doing 210 Fearless now. So when I had San Antonio Fearless, a coach called, hey, man, why don't you come over here, and coach, he's one of the co-owners. He said, hey, why don't you come over here and coach, man, and I said, well, I came over, and they said, well, they told me, they say, we got an interview process, and we got 5 people lobbying for the head coach job. I said, okay, that's fine. So I sat out of the office. It was raining. Of course, it was cover. And it was raining really heavy that day. And coaches going in, you next, they're going in. I mean, this is a youth sports team. I really admired that. I had to sit out there for like 15 minutes waiting for my turn to go in and make my case to be the head coach. So I walked in. They said, hey, who have you coached with before? What was your worst season? Why was your season that bad? I hadn't had a worst season I mean, I wasn't always championships, but I haven't had a worse season. Really, my 4-4 season was my worst season ever, and I'll tell y'all about that before we close out. But nevertheless, sat down, talked, and said, "What defense you run? What is your philosophy? What offense you run? What is this? What is that?" I walked out, and they said, "Give us." It was a Wednesday. They said, "We'll tell you by Friday," and they called me Wednesday night. They called me Wednesday night and said, "You got it." So apparently, whatever I told them, I blew them away. I blew them away because I know the game. I study the game. Like I say, a lot of you can out talk me when it comes to coaching. I'm not the best of anything. I'm not the best anything. Okay, I'm one of the best dads, but I'm not the best of anything. One of the best, right? So anyway, what happens is that you can out talk me X's and O's. I've seen it. You can out talk me X's and O's all the time, but we're talking about actually dealing with children, getting children to be the best that they can be. And a lot of times parents are a barrier to keep the children from achieving. And that's another thing that can be discussed at another time. Not trying to go at parents, but it's important for parents to see from a coach's perspective, not a coach that's, attitude and aggressive and anger, but now actually to have an intelligent discussion. How can you help me make your child the best they can be? How can you help me do that? And a lot of times it's the ride to practice and the ride from practice, the ride to the game and the ride from the game. Though that little short conversation has more impact than all the coaching I do all week. So we have to really be on the same page and not take it personal, not take matters personal when things don't go our way. But nevertheless, we'll get into that another time. So I can bring more kids ball. That's the third one, daddy ball, buddy ball / alcohol ball, and then I can bring more kids ball. That's another thing that hurts teams. And if you have a coach that won't affect your team. Now we got a coach here. You're gonna need some tenure. We need some tenure before we put you in a position. I don't care how many kids you can bring. You can bring a busload. So again, and the last one I'll mention is mercenary ball. What's that? Okay, well, when I've getting into, let's say, I left other leagues, and when I got into the Taifa league, before I was in Taifa before I was in Pop Warner first, but I stopped, and then there was Taifa, and then there was Najaf after that, and then other competitive leagues, that are more like tournament ball, okay, all-star type things. So anyway, what happens is that you have mercenary ball, okay, and there was a group of coaches that I knew, and the coach I mentioned that he had my son, who was not a fullback really in size, but could block pretty good, to get his shifty son off, right, to get his son down the field, and he put my son in block, and he's like, "Dad, why coach such and such don't let me run the ball?" And I knew why. I knew why. He was trying to let his son shine. Okay, sunshine. Okay, no pun intended. Double entendre. Okay, sunshine. So he was trying to let his son shine. I told my son, I say, "Look, you are a very efficient blocker." I say, "Block to the best of your ability. Pick them up off their feet. Block to the best of your ability." And that's what it was. And then when, like I say, the shifty Barry Sanders type undersized back was not too durable. So when he got hurt, they had to give my son the ball, and that's how he got his 4 and 5 touchdowns a game. And then coach had to run my son because people were like, "Oh man, why y'all not running him? Why is he only lead blocking?" I told my son, "Look, because you're a very efficient blocker." I didn't take my kid off the team and all that. Look, I say, "Son, this ain't no scouts out here looking at you. Don't worry about this." What was he? My son was like 8 years old at that time. I'm like, "Dude, give me a break, man. Calm down. Calm down. 8, 7 years old, calm down at that time." So he wanted to run the ball. That's his mentality. He wants to bang, he wants to bang. So, he was not given opportunity to do so, right? And when he was given opportunity, he shined, and people were like, "Hey, why is he not running the ball more?" And I think that's how he started getting the ball more, okay? But that mercenary ball, that's not mercenary ball. That some people might call that daddy ball. Okay, it is. But so we'll go into why is that mercenary ball? Okay, so when that team dissolved, and we decided to start the San Antonio Fearless, I went to the Predators for 1 year because we were still working out things. It cost a lot of money to start it, so we're working out certain kinks and things like that. So I went over to the Predators for 1 year, and this coach and his drinking buddies formed a group of mercenaries. Their kids were good players. Their kids were exceptional players. I'm not even going to hate. I mean, those kids were very exceptional players. But what the dads did was take those kids to different teams every year. Could never find a home. Mercenary ball, right? They were really mercenaries. They would come to your team, and you could have a head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. If they get wind that your team doesn't have a lot of players, they'll walk up with four to five, possibly 6 players and say these players will be on your team if you let us take over the coaching. Now, of course, they disenfranchising the other parent coaches, right? And a lot of times the owners would give in. Some owners would say, dude, get out of here. We don't work like that. It's not that type of, like I said, some says you have to have tenure. You have to vet you first, right? So the teams would sometime give in. Now, one such team at this time was the, and I'll mention the name because this is so far long ago, the John J. Jr. Mustangs at this time, okay? That was owned by Cindy and I forgot the other guy's name. Cindy and I forgot the guy's name. Anyway, he might still own it. I don't even know. But they end up splitting. But nevertheless, not going in there. But the John J. Jr. Mustangs, they went to that group and said, let us take over the coaching, the play calls, both sides of the ball, and you can have these kids. John J. Jr. Mustangs gave in and gave them the lead. Now, we were 0-3 that year. I had 12 kids. Okay, I had 12 kids. We were 11U or probably 10U or something like that. Probably 10U. 10U, no higher than 11U maybe. Okay, and or 12U. Could have been 12. It could have been 12U. I'm not sure. 12U maybe. I'm going to say 12U. So anyway, those details are really not important. But what happened was those mercenaries came in, and I know those coaches because I coached with them. I used to provide video for them even. They didn't know how to read video. They didn't know what they were looking at. So I stopped. I'm like, dude, I'm tired of wasting my time with the filming and the editing, and I got to watch the game through a little screen when I could be watching it actually live, and I'm missing things. I'm missing the whole field because I only have a frame. When you're doing video, you have, you see the director do this. He's seeing, do I have to move anything? What's actually going to be captured? So anyway, nevertheless, with that being said, they went over to John J. Jr. Mustangs. I'm coming in 0-3, right? And I'm gonna blame that on myself because I was trying to keep the kids safe and keep it fun always. I don't care if I have 50 kids. I had 12 at this time. That's Iron Man ball, okay? And I didn't expect to win, and I didn't want to, put my kids in harmful situations because a lot of them really weren't, coached up or trained up enough when they got to me. I was starting from scratch. And I'm not saying anything about anything. I'm just saying I was starting from scratch. So I had my son and I had Joseph. Okay. Matter of fact, my son and Joseph just reunited at the All-Star Media Day at the Alamo Dome. Both of them grew together. They both the same size, and all that stuff, and same height, and they saw each other again. Okay. But nevertheless, I had my son and I had Joseph. They were the only efficient tacklers, only efficient ball carriers. Okay. And I only had 2 of them. So my quarterback wasn't a true quarterback. He said, look, coach, I don't want to get hit. I said, look, my system is in and out, in and out. I said, I guarantee you they won't touch you. They won't touch you. If they get close, put the ball over here, okay? So this is what we did. Nevertheless, he never got sacked that season. And we were 0-3. and there was some rumblings, right? That's not a good look, right? We 0-3, and this is my team, San Antonio Fearless, right? So those mercenaries across the field, they got like 30 something kids, right? 30 something kids. I see them over there. I say, oh, okay, they over here now. They over here now. Okay. I told my kids, look, we're not losing this game, because before that, the rumblings, not the rumblings when I just, they were not from my organization. The rumblings were outside. Oh, y'all got us coming, and guess who's over here? Guess who's been coaching over here? We are 3-0, and we're gonna play y'all, and all the expectations were that they were gonna kick our teeth in, right? So I said, I had 3 practices before that game. I say, we're going to a double tight end set. I say, you're going as quarterback. I say, you're going to be quarterback, okay? We're going to a double tight end set. On this play, Joseph, you block for Wakil. Wakil, on this play, you block for Joseph. Simple. Keep it simple, stupid. KISS, right? And what happened was, long story short, well, I'm going to stretch out a little bit more. First play of the game, bam, we score on them. We score. They're like, what just happened? Now, they know my son, and they know Joseph, okay? They know my son, they know Joseph, so they know that you're dealing with some people. You're dealing with 2 monsters. They don't know the rest of the kids, novices, So what happened was, we score. Then they scored. Then we scored. And they scored. Remember, we got 12 kids. We got 12 kids. They got 30 something with the mercenary kids, the kids that coaches carry around the organization and have their way, throw elbows and have their way. So, and we back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. On one play on the other side of the field, Joseph gets hurt. And I was talking to his mom at the All-Star Media Day. I said, remember that time I threw that water on you? She said, yeah. I said, Joseph got hurt on the side. And I threw that water bottle on the ground. They got all on the team, Mom. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry. She said, Coach, I'm mad too. So Joseph had to sit out a snap or 2. And when he did, they scored on us. Okay, they scored on us when we could stop them. They scored on us because it was just Wakil by himself. So they focused on blocking my son 3-on-1, and then they scored. So now they're up. So then we scored, and they scored, and yada, yada, yada. They beat us something like 38-36. That didn't sit well. That didn't taste well in the mouth of the owners of the John Jay Jr. Mustangs. That didn't sit well. They were playing music, they were playing music and stuff when they scored, and they had a DJ there. They were like just Cindy and Pete, okay. They were just really, and they that game was like the game of the year or whatever. They really played it up because those coaches were gonna show me. I'm the one that stopped doing video for them because they didn't know what they were looking at, and so on and so forth. So, and plus they asked for my son to be part of that traveling mercenary, and I said, no, we ain't doing that. No, we good. We ain't doing that. And they wanted to come over to us, and we said no. See, all that came together, it culminated together, and what happened? We ended up playing them. They beat us with 30-something players to our 12. They beat us like 38-6 by 2 points. Not 1 point. If it was 1 point, I remember. I think it was 38-36 by 2 points. And because one of my players, Joseph, got hurt and had to sit out a couple of snaps. Okay? And that's what happened. So mercenary ball is real. I don't know if it's still happening. I don't have any, I know it happens, but I don't have any current stories about it happening. I don't have any current stories. So I'm lacking that, okay? I'm lacking that. But I know parents have pulled their kid and went to another team because they didn't have their way, okay? I know that happened. But I'm talking about a group of kids traveling together, having their way, by way of the coaches. I don't know if that's, I'm sure it's still happening, but I don't know of any up-to-date examples. So anyway, I've talked enough. This thing, privilege is the root of sports evil, is a real thing. It's a real thing. Just as in a professional level, agents can negotiate playtime, and the guy may not be deserving of playtime. He just has a name, okay? The formula, the chemistry might not be there. This guy may, the chemistry may not be there, but he has to be on the court, which it causes coaching atrophy. You lose coaching muscle. You don't have an influence. Like I said, I think the coaches should get paid really high, or I mean, I'm not saying bring the players' salary down low. That means the owners would put more in their pocket, right? But I don't know what the fix is, but I think they need to pay the coaches more, and I know the coaches will love me saying that, in the NFL, NBA, because you got to have a comparable salary. Because when heads roll, you think it's going to be the coaches? Yeah. 99% of the time it's going to be the coaches. It won't be the players. It won't be the star. It won't be the talent, what they call it. And coaches sometimes are talent. Some coaches are actual talent. Look at Dion. Look at Primetime. He's actually the talent. They asked him, would you ever coach NFL? He said, oh, no, I'm not coaching no millionaires. He said, I'm not coaching no millionaires. That's Deion Sanders said that. He said, he ain't coaching no men. He said, if they offered him an NFL coaching job, he wouldn't take it. And I can only take him at his word, okay? That privilege stuff, it hurts the professionals and it hurts youth ball. I just wanted to talk about it, So, again, thank you for bearing with me. I see viewers. I don't see any comments, but I do see viewers. I appreciate you viewing. Thank you for tuning in to 210 Fearless Sports Youth Show, Youth Talk Show, a youth show. I am Coach Sadiq. This has been Privilege, the root of sports evil. And I am out.